You are listening to the Sound of Niagara Podcast, the Nate McMurray Show. I'm going to start using that name more often. It's easier to find the show by using my name. People are confused. So just look for Nate McMurray on YouTube, on Facebook, on social media in general. I'm sort of on Blue Sky once in a while. TikTok, Nate McMurray. Name is down there in the corner. You can look for me. I'm going to have guests on from time to time, but it's going to be the Nate McMurray Show because that's the easiest way to find me. The question comes up often, why are you doing this, Nate? And I have this little sphere of influence, this little corner of influence in the Niagara region, Western New York. And I'm going to keep speaking because I think it's important for us all to speak out right now. I am not running for office. There's no ulterior motive here. There's no, grand ambition to be the next Joe Rogan or Hassan Piker. I just want to talk to you guys here in Western New York that know me and have come to trust me, or at least depend on the things I say, and kind of as a sounding board for yourself that you're not crazy. This is a crazy time. And I want you all to speak out and keep speaking out. And that's the reason why I do this. I do it almost every day. Maybe when Trump's out of office and I'm just tired and we have some normalcy again in America, I'll stop. But right now, I think it's important for us all to speak out. The big news today, Trump is in Israel. Let me say the good part of this before I go any further, okay? Yes, it's great that we have a ceasefire in the Middle East, and Trump deserves credit. I think this is not a popular opinion among my Democratic allies or allies on the left, whatever you want to call the movement on the left. I know most of us are very frustrated with the Democratic Party, so I don't want to say the Democrats because the Democrats drive me nuts. But people who are in opposition to Trump, I should say that. Whether you're from the right, the center right, the middle, the far left, I think a lot of us are frustrated with Trump. Yeah, but anyway, it's not popular among my supporters to say this, or my fellow travelers to say this. But what Trump did in the Middle East is amazing. It's amazing, okay? The Abraham Accords are also a big deal. I think he's a transactional president. I think he has the idea that a lot of people in business, including myself, I'm still in the private sector. I'm someone who grew up in the business world. You have to get things done or you're fired. And I know that's a miserable way to live sometimes, but it's just the truth. And I think he's privileged. He never really had that pressure, but I do think he understands you got to get it done one way or the other. You got to put aside our differences or dislikes and get things done. That being said, I think he's also the dark side of business. He's entirely self-interested. He'll do whatever he can to get another buck in his pocket. And he's completely corrupt, which most people are like him. That being said, he got this done. And it's impressive. Do I think he's a good person? No. But like even the bombing of Iran, I mean, you can complain about that all you want. There was almost no blowback. And that's incredible. And I think it was probably the right decision. He wanted to take out Iran, their ability to back up Hamas, and he did. Now, that's the good side. Now, you can all hate me for saying that, but it's the truth. I think that Donald Trump has real talent. I've said it before. If he used his talent to say, hey, I'm a good guy, I love maybe being funny and goofy, the entire country would love him, or 80% of the country would love him. The problem is he is not a good man. He does evil things for power. There is no limit to his greed or his self-dealing, and he doesn't use his talents for good, but he does have talents. And I think deep down, he's not a war hawk. That's what I think. I mean, you can be mad at me all you want. That's the one good thing about Donald Trump. He's not someone who's going to send us into endless wars. All right, and that's a big deal, especially after the last 25 years in this country. I'm afraid he's using the army and the military against his own people, which is, maybe that's why he's against war. He doesn't want risk, and like attacking moms and like random kids on skateboards who are protesting is easy for him. There is no risk except for the political blowback that he's going to, clamp down on. But he doesn't seem eager to send us into distant wars. All right. And for whatever you say, that's a good thing. All right. Now let's talk about the bad things. He did call for ethnic cleansing in Gaza. He did this morning, ask for a pardon for Netanyahu. I mean, come on. It's crazy, right? there's widespread calls against Netanyahu. People want him in jail for war crimes. He absolutely committed war crimes. What happened in Gaza was a genocide. The genocide that the people of Gaza endured. I said yesterday, if anybody deserves the Nobel Peace Prize, it's the people of Gaza, not Hamas, the people of Gaza who endured attacks by our weapons, the most powerful weapons in the world, and survived. They weren't pushed to Egypt. They weren't pushed here or there. They survived, okay? They took it all. The anger of the most powerful nation in the world, us, yes, giving endless supplies. We heard this morning, Trump was saying we gave them everything they wanted to destroy Gaza, and Gaza remains, okay? And so that's an amazing thing, and the people of Gaza should get credit, not Netanyahu, the war criminal. Now watch this. This is the end of Trump's speech.
Thank you very much, Steve.
I'll play a little bit of this. All right, all the applause. Yeah, there was a protest during the speech. I'll get to that. Hold on.
And he says just a lot of interesting things. We're talking about a lot of interesting things, including what he went in there for, but you can't talk about it for 5. You can talk about it for a certain period of time, and you know what you're getting.
The guy is not, he may be entertaining, but he is no grand orator. Every time he has to give a real speech like this, it sounds horrible. It sounds like this.
I personally believe that U.S. Americans are unable to do so because some people out there in our nation don't.
He literally sounds like that.
But that's a talent. That's a talent.
Just wandering around.
Most people I'd send in, number one, they wouldn't be accepted. Number two, if they were, the meeting would last 5 minutes. And that's what happens with Steve. Everybody loves him. They love him on this side. They love him on the other side. And he really is. He's a great negotiator because he's a great guy. So thank you very much, Steve. Very much.
That was actually sort of coherent compared to what he usually says. But let's keep going.
Freak out, Steve. Don't be nervous. You know you can do it. No, I can't. I'm a bad boy. Yes, no, you're not. You're good. You could make a show. Who the do you think you are? You can't do a show. Yes, I can. I can do good. I'm a good boy.
Little Trump pre-speech jitters there. No, he did. Listen, it's an amazing thing that this war is over. Credit should go to the people of Gaza who endured this, and the people of the West Bank who continue to endure all manner of atrocities. It is not a good situation, and this made it even worse. Watch this.
We make the best weapons in the world, and we've got a lot of them, and we've given a lot to Israel, frankly. I mean, Bibi would call me so many times, can you get me this weapon, that weapon, that weapon? Some of them I never heard of, Bibi, and I made them.
He made them?
But we'd get them here, wouldn't we? And they are the best. They are the best. But you used them well. It also takes people.
You used them well. He bombed people's apartments. He bombed, villages. He bombed people in tents. Listen, I'm not going to gloss over what happened here. It was a genocide, a failed genocide. Okay, it was a failed genocide by Netanyahu that we American taxpayers paid for. Now it's over. They're acting like they won World War II. All you did is destroy a bunch of guys in pickup trucks and Toyotas with machine guns. And I'm glad it's over because you decided to stop bombing villages for no reason, because Netanyahu would have bombed those people until there was nobody left. But they endured and they survived. And the reason why the war is over is because the people of Gaza and the young people of the world said, this has to stop. And it became so politically toxic. I mean, basically, I think Kamala Harris lost the election in large part, because she refused to recognize the genocide that was happening there. And Trump felt the heat all over the country. They wanted him to get this war over with, and it's over with. But he deserves credit for it, for using these high-tech bombs to continue to endlessly. Almost 100,000 people died, okay? It is one of the most bloody, one-sided conflicts in history. And this isn't a joke, President Trump. But look what he wants to do. Watch this. This is a protester comes out, but I'll get to that. But look at this.
I have an idea. Mr. President, why don't you give him a pardon?
So he wants to pardon Netanyahu.
Give him a pardon. Come on.
That's a war criminal right there, okay? That's someone who the International Criminal Court has a warrant out for his arrest. That's who this guy is, all right? He bombed these little kids. I can show you the videos. They're almost too horrific to show. I've showed some in the past. He bombed the people of Gaza into almost oblivion, but they endured. The reason why the war is over, I'm going to keep saying it, is because they endured. What this was a failed genocide. That's not a liberal talking point. That is what many international experts, including experts from the United Nations, called it, okay? It's what our politicians, including Kamala Harris until yesterday, refused to call it. And what many young people across the country have seen and known for a long time. Trump said, ethnically cleanse the area. Get those people out of there. He couldn't do it. So yeah, there's peace. There's peace because the people of Gaza endured and because some nations in the Middle East said, hey, this is crazy. We're not taking all these people from Gaza. We're not going to let you kill every single one of them. So it's over. That's what really happened here. This guy's no hero. Never mind the fact that he's got an election coming up and they settled it. Basically, they said, we agree to stop bombing you and destroying everything and killing all of you in time for this guy to go to have an election. His own people booed him yesterday, by the way.
By the way, that was not in the speech, as you probably know. But I have
This guy's he's literally a talk show host from the 70s.
to like this gentleman right over here, and it just seems to make so much sense. You know, whether we like it or not, this has been one of the greatest wartime presidents.
A war is when you have an even fight or some sort of even fight. You were just bombing villages, and you had these terrorist cells that you were trying to destroy with like F-16 fighters. This is horror. I don't care how it's rewritten in history. You all should know it was a horror show. Yes, you saw me. What's happened on October 7th was awful. And I was very much upset by the young people that were saying it was wonderful. And don't tell me it didn't happen. It absolutely happened. But this is also kind of ghoulish. This isn't like the end of World War II. This isn't victory in Europe Day or victory in Japan Day. This is them agreeing to stop bombing these poor people who were enduring a genocide.
This has been one of the greatest wartime presidents.
Oh my gosh.
And cigars and champagne, who the hell cares about that?
All right, here's some protest that happened during a speech. This is a left-wing.
Please expel this Knesset member. Please expel this Knesset member. Please expel Knesset member Kasif out of the hall. Please expel him
Thank you,
immediately.
Mr. Kasif. I don't know who you are, but there needs to be some level of protest. But Netanyahu is an awful human being. Trump praising him like that.
Was very efficient.
Oh, see, this guy praising the strongmen stuff. Yeah. All right, moving on. I want to kind of shift gears massively here for a second. I want to talk about the Buffalo Bills. Can I do that for a second? I know it's a big change, but let me talk about the Buffalo Bills. Before I do that, though, I want to talk about the Russian term cynical equivalence, right? I talked about it yesterday. It's where you basically flood the zone with disinformation and painting all politicians as equally bad, or especially your opposition is equally bad, which allows there to be a strong man that has to fix everything. And the strong man may also be bad, but that's okay because he's going to be our bad guy that will fix the system. And this is, you basically destroy faith in everything. You destroy faith in everything, and you claim, I'm the only thing left you can trust. And that's Trump's technique. That is Netanyahu's technique to a large degree. It is the right wing or the Russian technique. It's a classical disinformation tactic. And I don't speak Russian. As you guys know who follow this, I speak several languages, but you only get one lifetime, and I'm trying to perfect a few others before I move on to Russian. I'm just not that interested in Russian. But it is a classic Russian Soviet tactic. Okay? Cynical equivalence. Remember that. Here it is. So I want to set this up. So this is a completely different subject, okay? And it may be boring to some of you who are more interested in national politics, but it is very relevant to the corruption we have in our society and what's going on in our country. The Buffalo Bills, you know them, right? We love the Buffalo Bills in Western New York. And I always have to preface this because I can talk about Donald Trump all day long and people be like, yeah, Nate. But when I say, I got a problem with what the Bills are doing, you would think that I was talking about somebody's mom. Both the right and the left in Western New York want to tear my head off. I tried to run for local office a couple of years ago, and I said, listen, this Bill Stadium is a joke. It was the most controversial thing I've ever said, and I've called the NRA a terrorist group. I've said all this kind of stuff over the years. The most dangerous thing I've ever said is maybe we should reconsider building this Buffalo Bills Stadium in the middle of nowhere. No offense to the people of Orchard Park, but it's not exactly in the center of the region. It's a beautiful place, but building a stadium that's smaller across the street from the existing stadium is just not a good thing. Now, let me give you the history, okay? I'll go quick because I know this is boring to most of you, but if you're interested in Western New York, let me give you the abbreviated history. Okay, the Buffalo Bills were formed in the 60s, not in the 30s, not in the 20s, not a century ago, in the 60s, okay? Late 60s. They played down in the city of Buffalo on the east side. That was the time of civil rights unrest, a lot like you saw during the BLM protests. And Ralph Wilson, who's from Detroit, lives on that beautiful lake off of Lake Michigan. What's that lake called? I can't remember. It's a beautiful area. It's where they filmed the Virgin Suicides. Anyway, he said, I'm going to move the team to someplace else. So they considered options. They were going to build a dome stadium down by the waterfront, all these other options. And he said, no, I'm going to move to Orchard Park. Orchard Park is a very white, like 99.9%, previously white-lined community, saying you can't sell to anybody unless they're white. Literally, there was deeds like that once upon a time in Orchard Park. He moved the stadium to Orchard Park, all right, out of the black area of Buffalo, out of the city of Buffalo to Orchard Park. Now, whether he did that for racist reasons or not, we can debate all day. Nonetheless, it happened. He moved to the whitest community in the region, all right? Hold on, let me pause this for a second. Okay. So we moved to Orchard Park, and then what happens, right? The Bills, they flounder for a while. And then the 80s, 90s come, and we do a little bit better. And they say, hey, we need upgrades to this old stadium, which the Ralph Wilson Stadium did need upgrades. It was like an old-fashioned high school stadium almost. So the Erie County and New York State gave them hundreds of millions of dollars, okay? Hundreds of millions of dollars. The county executive actually wrote a book about how he saved the Bills back then. And it was a short saving because very soon thereafter, they asked for more money. And they said, we're going to leave. We are going to go to Austin or somewhere else unless you promise us a new stadium. This is an abbreviated version. So anyway, the new ownership takes over. They say, you should all love us because we saved the team. But then they say the same thing. We're going to leave unless you give us a new stadium. So they get together. They give them almost $1 billion, New York State and Erie County. I'll remind you that Buffalo is the poorest city in the NFL. Maybe you could argue that the region around Green Bay is poorer, but it's comparable. Anyway, the doesn't have a Fortune 500 company here. It's a very poor city. The average income in the city of Buffalo is something like $30,000 household income. Like almost a 30% poverty rate, which is like 3 times the national average. A large portion of the homes in the city of Buffalo don't even have a car. So there's no transportation to Orchard Park. It's in the middle of nowhere for most of these people. They don't go to Orchard Park for any reason. And I say these people, I mean the people of Western New York. You don't go to, I grew up in the South, in the North towns. Unless there was an absolutely clear reason to go to Orchard Park, I never went to Orchard Park. I didn't even know where Orchard Park was when I was a kid. So it's out in this rural community, and they say they need it there because they want to preserve tailgating culture. So the New York State and Erie County give more money, dollar for dollar, and also, in terms of inflation, than any team was ever given in the history of the NFL. The poorest community in the NFL gives that much money to the team ownership, which is the richest family in upstate New York. Since they bought the team for about a $1.5 billion. The team is worth almost $7 billion a day. It's been an incredible investment for them. Huge moneymaker for the family. But nonetheless, they want all this money to build the stadium or else they're leaving. Literally, holding us up, ransom. So they have this hugely, incredibly loyal fan base that's like, build them the stadium. We need the Bills. Fine. So they build the stadium. They don't build it downtown because they want to preserve tailgate culture. So the sin of the 60s of moving this team out of the city remains. All right. And then it gets worse. There's still no travel or transportation to the stadium. And again, the big excuse is tailgating culture. But when they build the stadium, then they say, remarkably, that you're going to charge people for these licenses to buy tickets. All right. Licenses to buy tickets. Now, why is that? Because the ownership did have to put a little bit of money into the stadium, and they don't want to actually pay for it, so they want the fans to pay for it. And so the seats are nicer, the stadium's nicer, but it's smaller, and the tickets are almost twice as much. Plus, you have to pay this country club fee, this PSL, personal seat license, this ticket to buy the seats. So when you go to country club, you got to pay the upfront initial fees, and then you have to pay your yearly dues. So the yearly dues would be your fees, your fees of the country club, and the initial fee would be your membership fee. So to buy into the country club. So that's what these people have done. They bought the license that they have. You could also buy it on credit, by the way, at a 20% interest rate. And if you can't pay the amount of the PSL, you can't pay your payments, you lose it and you don't have the right to sell it and you don't get anything reimbursed. So it's a complete scam, all right, for regular people. So now people are starting to talk about it. How did this happen? How did we give all this money to them? How are we getting screwed? And I'm like, well, no offense. I hate to be the guy that says I told you so all the time, but I told you so. I was out there talking about this and you guys were screaming at me, literally throwing tomatoes at me. But here we are. Some national groups are now focusing a light on what a scam the Buffalo Bills deal is. So here we go.
Bills fandom is a religion in Buffalo.
Buffalo all the way this time!
Yeah, take it easy.
Through blizzards, heartbreak, and broken tables.
It's the thing is, I'm a guy who's gone to the stadium and shoveled, all right? I've done that in my life. I am not some random guy who hates the Bills. I love the Bills. I grew up with the Bills. You kidding me? I've had Bills clothing. I have $1,000 of the Bills clothing in my closet. But the thing is, in Buffalo, you can never be enough of a fan. It's unless your whole body is covered in Bills tattoos, you're a poser. Listen, compared to some of these guys in this tape, I am a casual fan. I'll admit it. I'm I like the Bills. But it's not my whole life. It's not my lifestyle. Get a grip.
The Bills have called this place home for the last 53 years. But starting next season, the Bills will move across the street to their new $2.1 billion home. In fairness,
which is they needed a new stadium. I don't think it should be in the middle of Orchard Park. I think it should have been in the city. I think they should have used it to revitalize the central terminal and to bring, subway lines into the city. I think it could have been a real iconic opportunity for the city, but our city is run by idiots who don't say anything and keep their mouth shut or just cheer on the richest people. And you're going to see that in this whole video. If you watch this whole video online, it is shocking what happened to our city.
people are really excited about this new stadium, but there are definitely fans who will be priced out.
Season tickets are going to get a little pricier.
Season ticket holders were told they would need to fork over potentially tens of thousands of dollars.
Some fans were told it will cost $50,000 for a single club level seat.
And here's the kicker.
Can you imagine in Western New York, where in the city of Buffalo, the average family is like making like I said, the household income's around $30,000?
Those aren't even the ticket prices. Those numbers are just for the access to buy tickets down the line.
Wow.
So where does this leave the working class fans in Bills Mafia?
By the way, the Bills also gave a huge chunk of money to, I think to the, I'll look it up again, but I can't remember the exact amount, to the Trump inauguration efforts.
Take it over for about 5 years. Of course, the new stadium kind of pushed some people away.
I've probably been to about 100 games in this stadium. I am really trying to savor every last moment here.
I'm a single mom. I made this work. I made sure I got a second job to maintain my tickets.
I've been a season ticket holder since 1964, and this is my last season for season tickets.
A little too pricey.
Telling the story of the
I'm going to go through the beginning of this, and I'm going to have you watch the whole thing, but basically it's sad. People that have supported the team their entire lives can't go to the games anymore. Because for a single luxury seat or box seat, it basically makes as much money as an entire section of fans. So there's no reason to make a bigger stadium for more people to watch the game or to be part of the tailgating culture. They don't care. They care about making as much money as possible.
dedicated Bills fans getting left behind by their billionaire owners explains so much about what's going on in the world of sports and even the American economy. Let's dig into it.
Let me take you back to how the stadium was built. This is not a straightforward story.
To me, this is the most interesting part because it shows how complicit and secretive the politicians were. There wasn't a referendum. It was all done behind closed doors. I remember nobody wanted to talk about this. County executive, the legislature, they were all like, because they were bullied into a conspiracy of silence. And so we got ripped off. It was totally undemocratic. The problem I have with the Democratic Party is they're always talking about democracy and how democracy is under threat, but they fear democracy. They fear primaries. They fear even discussions of how much a stadium should cost and how much we should pay.
There's going to be some twists and turns and some details, but it's a really interesting one, and it's a story that is totally Buffalo. Here's what was happening behind the scenes. The Bills are owned by Terry Pegula and his wife, Kim Pegula. Terry is in his 70s. He's an
I've met both of them, by the way. They were okay. I mean, they weren't like super impressive or anything, but they were fine. But they did come across as a lot less rich than they actually are. They're incredibly rich. They're like Rockefeller rich, but anyway.
Guy. He built multi-billion-dollar business in drilling and energy in 2014. The Pegulas bought the Bills for $1.4 billion.
We all just bought a team. Our team.
Your
the
team,
Buffalo
bro.
Bills.
You own it.
10 years later, the investment's
doing
great. The Bills are valued at just under $6 billion. Around 2018 or so, the Bills were pushing toward pursuing a new stadium.
The Pegulas are now looking into the possibility of a new stadium.
Okay.
Then in August 2021, everything changed. Governor Cuomo resigned, and his lieutenant governor, Kathy Hochul, stepped up to the top job, chief executive of New York State. Conveniently for the Bills, she grew up just a couple miles down the road from the stadium. She grew up a Buffalo Bills fan.
Go Bills! Bring home that Super Bowl.
When Kathy Hochul...
Listen, that lady drives me nuts. I'm not going to lie. I think she's the biggest phony there is. I mean, I do. Once upon a time, I really tried to like her. You got to understand, I really tried to like this lady. I really tried to look at her in a positive light. I mean, I knew her history, right? She was Mrs. Anti-Immigrant. That's how she became, a politician. She was Mrs. Don't Give Licenses to Illegals. She was, if you go back and watch the clips of her from the early 2000s, she sounds like Donald Trump. She was super anti-immigrant. I know she's got to rebrand herself so she can stay in office because she's got to carry New York City now as the governor. But she fell into the governor position, and then she became like this, like progressive, or at least ostensibly, or on the, she's more progressive than she's ever been, at least as her talking points are. But I know her and her husband. I spent time with her husband. These are people that are incredibly conservative, like as far as their natural DNA and makeup. These are not progressive people. These are people that, like, I know Kathy, I know some of her former staffers. She didn't even want her staff to wear sleeveless shirts, like her female staff, even though she's dramatically changed on that. She wears much more modern clothing than she used to. Her husband used to listen to Joel Osteen all day. I remember. Like, I used to, I don't want to go into details. I knew the guy, not personally, but I knew him enough. These are conservative people. That's who they are. They're not the worst people in the world, but they're conservative people. And she was extremely conservative as a politician. When she ran for Congress, she was elected in a three-way race right over some of the areas where I ran. And she won in a three-way race against two ultra-conservatives that split the vote in a special election, which allowed her to sneak in. But she ran as a conservative by and large, pro-gun, anti-immigrant conservative. In the House, she was super conservative, A+ rating by the NRA, guns, guns, guns all the time, voted to impeach Eric Holder, part of the Fast and Furious scandal. She refused to caucus with Democrats, refused to go to the Democratic Party's meetings. She was a conservative Democrat. And I know that's how they used to do it, but she was very close, I think, with the Clintons at once upon a time. Their whole thing was run to the middle, and that was the old strategy. But I don't believe politics is about strategy. I think it's about doing the right thing and hoping people over time, and maybe it won't work out for you personally, but over time you build a consensus. The problem is I don't have a party that believes that same thing. They believe it's about winning now, making sure you and your family are safe and rich, which is what she does. All of her family are connected or, in lobbying jobs in pharmaceuticals or whatever else, or in law firms that are connected to powerful interests. This is who this lady is. And so when she walks around and is like, "Go Bills," I'm like, oh gosh, it's this jingoistic pandering to the base. Do I think it's good for me to say, hey, the Bills deal was a bad deal, we got scammed? No, it's a horrible thing to do politically. I'm not stupid. You think I'm dumb? The smartest thing you can do is just clad yourself in Bills clothes and say, "Go Bills" all day. But that's why we have a rip-off stadium that's going to, keep 99% of Western New Yorkers out. The problem is, I get it. That's what followers do. That's what people who want to stay in office and have power do. It's not good for our region, Kathy. And it drives me crazy that that's the only type of leaders we have. Nobody, not our new mayor, not our soon-to-be mayor, not our county executive of over 2 decades, literally since I was in law school, the guy's been running for office or been in county leadership. None of these people said a word about how bad this deal was. In fact, they bent the rules and bent over backwards to get the deal done.
Became governor in late August 2021. The Bills deal started moving. The public didn't always know it. Yeah. Things were kept kind of quiet. Not quiet. Silent, but quiet.
Silent,
Here's what the deal was.
Silent, bro. There was one public hearing I can remember, and it was done in quickly just to kind of check a box in a form. We had more public transparency for the West River Trail on Grand Island. And there was endless town board meetings I had to go to every week and people yelling at me. There was no discussion of this. It should have been put up to a referendum.
The price tag on the stadium when the deal was reached was $1.4 billion. The state was going to pitch in $600 million.
It's more now, by the way.
Erie County was going to spend over $250 million. So that's $850 million in taxpayer money.
By the way, go back and look at my social media. We, meaning me and my friends, were the only ones talking about this. And gosh, the hate I was receiving. I can't believe you're betraying us, Nate. I can't believe you want to die on this hill. It's important. This stuff is important. It's symbolic of how our country is.
I've been studying stadium deals for decades, and this is one of the worst I've ever seen.
That's Victor Matheson. He's an expert on stadium deals.
$850 million was more than we'd ever seen in any stadium in the United States, even after considering inflation, both in absolute dollar terms and pretty high in terms of relative portion being paid by the taxpayer.
Jeez.
One of the things I always tell folks is be careful, sports fans, what you wish for, because that nicer stadium, it's going to be you paying for that. And I think
you're not going to be allowed to get in.
Are experiencing a real sense of sticker shock.
What we hope to do is really show in the stadium experience how some of those design decisions we have taken responded to things that the Bills fans really said, hey, this is important to us.
When I went in for the Bills experience, I told the guy right off, you can show me all the bells and whistles. I just want to have a beer in the parking lot, go to my seat, watch the game, and then I want to get out of there so I can get home.
So you go and they can show you how the stadium looks, what's going to be new, how everything's at the seating. They even let you sit in seats that are similar there. I'm like, this all looks great, getting me hyped up. And then we go in the office and they're like, all right, so for your seats, here's the cost of your PSL.
I'm going to fast a little bit.
Season tickets for the new stadium. It has been a real learning process for the fans. The smallest market in the NFL.
Already, figured that out.
The owner of
infantry badge, parachute.
Sports.
Voters do have a sense of fairness there. And about half of all cases where it's been put in front of voters have said, actually, no, thank you.
Yeah,
when things
that's
get
the part
done.
I wanted to get to. If it was put on referendum, you think we would have a better deal? So listen, unlike our Democratic leaders locally, I believe in democracy. I actually believe that things should be put up for a vote. What is that? I don't understand why they were like. When I do a thumbs up, does it give a thumbs up? I guess it does. No, but they didn't want to do that. They wanted to keep it in. They don't believe in democracy. They complain about Trump all the time, but they don't believe in democracy, and it's sad. I'm just gonna stop. Go watch this whole thing online, okay? Also, you can see here on the board on the screen, October 19th, around 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, I guess, out near Canandaigua Lake. I'll be there. A live podcast. Can you believe that? Oh my gosh. I'll be setting up my camera out there and my little computer. Come, join us, okay? You'll get to see me interview some candidates. It's going to be fun. It's the first live event I've done in years. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing people out there. October 19th. When is that exactly? That is, let me see. That is Sunday. Super Sunday. I'll see you Sunday, okay? See you Sunday out in Canandaigua. All right, we talked about a few things today. We talked about how praising Netanyahu, it makes my stomach churn. We talked about how the Bills Stadium's a ripoff and a few other things. And thank you for listening. Talk to you soon. Come on. Kick in there, buddy. Oh, boy. The ending. There you go. You're back.